lazy loading recipes that are available right now in Angular. So what I mean by lazy loading recipes, you know, there are two ways to load the code or load the resources in the browser. So one is eagerly and the second one is lazily. So there are some advantages of having eagerly loaded, but there are very few. And there are some advantages of lazy load the resources. So, by loading things lazily, you will get a performance benefits, your application will be much lighter when it comes to first load, and things will fetch on as on when needed on demand. So little bit about myself. So I'm Pankaj Parkar. Right now I'm working at Singapore um, company Virtusa, and also I'm MS MVP Angular JDA. Also I did some open source, and also I'm Stack Overflow top user. So if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me by using a handle Pankaj Parkar anywhere like GitHub or Twitter or LinkedIn. So that was about myself. Let's go back to the topic. So what is lazy loading in first place? So I already told you, right? Lazy loading is a technique to load relevant resources on demand. So what I mean by that is we will get the things whenever we needed. Okay. So that was just a definition. Let's look at some example, what exactly the lazy loading is. So throughout the journey or throughout the session, we will be looking at 4 or 5 points. So first thing is how to lazy load routes. Then we will look at how to dynamically load component. Then there is something new called as import plus cam. So we will be looking at that. And then we will end up with what is the possible future of this lazy loading thing in Angular, how it will look like in future. So just stay with me and we will see one by one with code examples. So let's take an example of this application. Okay. And if you see, this is very simple application. It has a dashboard page that is displayed. Okay. And it has some dashboard related graphs where user can see the details. But apart from dashboard, it also have admin, product and roles. Okay. Now tell me, like, in general application, if you are not using any lazy loading technique, or you are just using a single page application without any lazy loading technique, what would happen is when you load a code for this particular page, it will also load a code for admin module, then product module, and then the roles module, and any other thing which is going to be executed later. So this way things works fine, but in case if your application is very huge, like I can say there are hundreds of modules in your application, that time you will see your first page load takes time. What I mean by takes time, it may take 10 seconds or maybe more than that. And as per standard of web, we should make sure that the page should be loaded within 3 seconds. So to make sure that, what we can do over here is we can just make sure that while crafting this application, we can load admin, product, role and the dashboard sub application or sub modules whenever we need it, right? So to do such thing, we will see how the application, before going to the lazy loading, we will see how the application architecture will look like for such kind of application. So this is very general application architecture, not in depth. So basically you will have a single app module, and then you, by looking at each requirement or each page, you will see that, okay, dashboard can be sub module. So you will create a separate ng module of dashboard, then admin, then product and then roles. So this 4 can be sub modules. Okay. Now when it comes to uses, what you can do is you can import these modules inside app module. Okay. What will happen is you have to add this module inside the imports of your app module, which will make sure that the dashboard, admin, product and roles code are, is getting loaded into the system. And that way you can solve the problem. But yeah, like we are talking about lazy loading. So this is not lazy loading. This will be called as eager loading. Eager loading. Eager meaning loading the resources, upfront or before doing everything. So how can we deal with the lazy loading? How to achieve that? So first pattern we are going to look at is lazy loading using routes, where we will be making sure that each submodule will be lazy loaded and we can save some cost. you know so basically what I mean is, when dashboard page is loaded, don't load the resources or JS file or CSS file that have been used by the admin module, product module and roles module. So that way you will save some kbs in terms of network traffic. So how to do this? So earlier, when you do a normal routing in eagerly loaded pattern, you will have something like this. Your app module, like I said, app module will have all 4 module imported in imports, this one, and your route configuration will have a path, a path and which component to load. So in case of dashboard, it will load dashboard. In case of roles, it will load roles component. Same for admin and product. Okay. So how to convert this eagerly loaded routing to lazy loaded routing? So to do that, it's just simple in Angular. What you can do is you just have to say load children and just pass on one function. And inside that function, what you will do is, now you are segregating your application into submodules. So pass on the Angular module path and then import it and just load the dashboard module here. So same for other ones. So basically what will happen is, before you were importing all the modules at the beginning. Now what will happen is, whenever you change any routes, it will go here and it will execute this particular function. If suppose it's roles, so it will import that particular what I can say, a page, and not page, a module, and then it will assign that module and it will do the further actions in Angular framework. So let's see an example of this, how it looks like when it comes to lazy loading. So let me minimize this. So can you see my Visual Studio Code? Is it visible, Ashan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice. So I have already ran this application in browser. Before running everything, I will just give quick overview of what this application has. First, I will go to the UI and then we'll show you, and then we will come back to the code and we'll see what is there inside the code base. Okay. So let me close all of the tabs. So here, so see, as I said, like we have seen some mockup, right? I tried to match the mockups. So we have a dashboard page which loads by default and it has few things. Okay, few charts. Then there is an admin page which has a table. Product page also have one table and roles page also have one table. Okay. Now, this is the simple application. So basically, what we did in code is we have submodules for dashboard, admin, product, and roles. So just try to look up for them just to see whether we are mapping it correctly or not. So this is my complete Angular application that I have created. I will share the URL later. So inside src, you will see that I have a app component.html. Okay. On top, I have a navigation bar where all the links are present. Roles, product, admin, dashboard. And I have a router outlet. So what does this mean is, it will check the URL and will load particular component inside this router outlet. Okay. Now let's look at the folder. Okay. I can see some folder admin. Okay. So this must be something related to admin route. Let's check. So it has something related to component and module. Okay, we will come back to that. Same thing, I have a dashboard, then I also have a product and roles. Okay, so 4 sub components are mapped. Okay, we will look at the internal code in a while. Also, I have one service to load the data, and there is one shared folder, and in that I have a navbar. So that's what it has. Okay, now I am going to the app module.ts. I told you I have app module.ts. So now I will show you the implemented logic of the lazy loading. Okay, so this is very simple app module. Initially I have imported material modules that I have been using. Inside declaration I declared app component, and inside import you can see these are a generic so these 3 are component modules loaded from Angular framework right here, 3. And later on there is something called as app routing module. So this is the route registration module. So let's have a look at it. Okay, so this is it. So what this has is, if you look at this, I said that the same configuration that I have shown you, this one, and we just say that load it when load a particular route, particular module when the route matches. So that's all it have. And now if you look at any particular component, suppose let's look at the dashboard module and its component. What it has is, it have a module. It's very simple module. It imports some material modules, and it declares a dashboard module, which is dashboard component, which is its own component. And a dashboard component is pretty simple. It has some code, and it has some HTML, which is showing a pie chart and bar chart. Okay, so that was the overall explanation of this thing. So let's now go to the next part of the talk. So what I was saying, by using the lazy loading technique, you will see that some magic, like now the code has been loaded. You can see the network has loaded some code. I will just filter out the JS part. Okay, it has loaded this 5 standard files which are specific to Angular. When Angular CLI make a build, these files will be loaded. And there is one more now, which is dashboard module.js. Do you understand why it got loaded? Because I loaded the dashboard module. Now I'm jumping to admin and clearing this up. See what happens. So see, as soon as I click over there, it loaded the admin module code, and same way for product and roles. Nice. So this way, see how much KBs we are saving. We are saving almost 15 KB. In case of minification, it becomes very low, like somewhere around 5 KB to 3 KB, or maybe less than that. But if your application or submodule code is huge, you will see a lot of perf benefit, and lot of size you will be end up saving. You will be shipping very less byte, and you will load it whenever you need it. So this is the one of the technique to do a big level lazy loading, like module level, right? So is there anything else which can be go on the component level, a small pieces inside the modules? So yeah, we are going to that topic very soon, but yeah, just stay with me. So what's the next part is, there is one more thing where you can make your lazy loading strategy more customized. So this strategy is called as custom preload strategy. Okay, so what I mean by here is, so let me show you the routing. This is the routing. Okay, suppose in this particular pages, you want to load a code of a particular page eagerly when everything app is initializing. So is there any way to do that? Right now you loaded everything lazily, so it will load on demand when URL changes. So is there any way to do that? And let me tell you before doing what could be the scenario you will be encountering and you will have to do it. So the scenario will be, suppose you have a page and that takes a lot of time to load, and that's a pretty important page, maybe reports page or something similar to that. Or let's take an example of a dashboard page itself. You know, generally people will see a dashboard page when they are, you know, logged in, when they gets logged in. So most probably they want to see the page upfront. As soon as they click login, it should load, you know. And in case, you know, if you are doing lazy loading and the chunk size or the, you know, the lazily loaded module size could be bigger, then you might think of loading that particular module eagerly. So how to do this kind of things? So Angular has provided one option called as something called as, you can set your custom preloading strategy. You know, by default you can also do this thing. I will show you multiple options. One option is preload all modules. What will happen is, even though you set this to lazily loaded, everything will work, you know, everything will be loaded together. So let me show you this first. So you can see that, you know, let me refresh this. JS filtering is enabled. I'm going to refresh the page, and you will see that all the JS module files are already loaded. I don't have to click it. Okay. If you don't mention this and you are using load children, then, you know, it will load on demand. And there is third strategy, which is custom strategy, where I have already wrote one custom strategy. First I will show you and then we will see it in action. So let's look at this slide. So let's take an example of roles page, and we want to load the role space, you know, as soon as app is loaded. We don't have to wait until the URL is appearing in the route. So to do that, you can write one custom preload strategy class, and inside that Angular provided one preloading strategy interface. It requires to override a preload method or provide an implementation of preload method. Here you can do some logic here and there, and based on that, the module, the Angular code will decide whether to eagerly load particular module or not. So in this case, I'm just passing on preload colon true in my route configuration itself. So whoever has a preload true, it will load the code upfront, okay, at the beginning itself. Okay, so this code is pretty simple. You know, I just check if route has a data, and if it has anything like, oh sorry, this should be like this, data preload true object. I wrote it wrong, so I will correct it when in demo itself. So first of all, when you write such custom preload strategy, I wrote it here inside services folder. This is exactly what I have shown you in the slide. And when it comes to uses, I will just go here and I will set this custom preloading strategy. Okay, and I will import it from where I am right now. Okay, services, and then okay, I have to export it from here as well. Custom preload strategy, export. What happened? Services. Okay, so import is done, and now you know, we will do the other part, which is, wait a minute, it's showing some error. Let me do this way. It's TypeScript error, so let me fix it quickly. Yeah, so what I said is, whenever I want to do any route eagerly, I have to provide some configuration. So as I said, let's focus on dashboard and try to load it eagerly, and other will be loaded lazily. So Okay, no, not dashboard. Let's take an example of role, because dashboard is the first page which loaded. Let's do it. I will say data and then preload true. Okay, first check it without having this and see what happens. So I just go onto the page on dashboard. Okay, so let's see what happens when I see dashboard. Something is wrong, and on dashboard it's only loading the dashboard module, right? So I'm just changing this, adding one data. This is route configurable data and preload true. And let's reload the page. Something is wrong. Wait a minute. Some error is there. Okay. Wait a minute. I have to fix this error first. So this has to be a provider. So what has to happen is, in case of Angular, wherever you want to inject a service, you have to say that it should be either of root. Yeah, this fixed the issue. Let's go to the network and see what happens. See, now I'm on dashboard page, right? And I try to reload the page. You will see that it is loading the dashboard module. Let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, you will see that it loads the dashboard module as well as the roles module, even though we are not navigating to the roles page. But for if you go there, it will not do anything. It will just stay there. If you go on product, it will load something. So this way you can configure, customize preload strategy. Now moving on to the next part, which is the next one, and this is pretty interesting. You might not have heard of it, so be focused. So load component dynamically. Suppose I have a page and it has a button and it has not loaded a component yet. Now what we have to do is, on click of a button, we have to imperatively add the component into the browser itself. So to do that, I place something called as ng container. So ng container is kind of placeholder that can be accessed inside angular component.ts, and you can play around with it. So now we are going to make a use of that. And to get the reference, I just did view child, and it should be a container. Okay, sorry about that. It should be a container, and I get a reference of that container. Okay, and as soon as I do that, on click of this add bar component, what will happen is, we will first make sure that the container is clear. You know why? Because if I keep on clicking, it will keep on adding one component inside it. So I'm making sure that it should be clear, and later on I am just taking the reference of this container and saying create component, and then I can pass a component reference directly itself. So we are having one bar chart component that can be rendered directly. Okay, so let's look at this in action. So yeah, so let's move on to this page, and if I scroll a bit down, I have a button, show bar chart component. Okay, so while doing this, let's debug this as well. Dashboard component.ts. So I have this particular component method inside my component, and I'm just making a call to this. So as soon as I do that, I just landed inside this method. If you see what is container, you will see that it is ultimately pointing to the, see, if I do that, it ultimately points to the HTML present inside the DOM, and I'm just initially saying clear that up, and later on the container I'm calling create component method and passing on the bar chart component object. What is bar chart component? The one which we are seeing here. And let's see what happens when I execute this. So Angular added one component dynamically, just beneath where I said. So if I try to click on it again, now it already has component, right? Now once I execute this line, it will wipe out and it will add it again. So this way you can add the component dynamically. Okay. So yeah, we achieved something, we got to know how to dynamically load the component. But over here, we are not lazily loading. What I mean by that is, over here, if you try to see in a network, one of the JS file, basically the dashboard JS file, you will see that this particular code have been already loaded, in the browser itself. So now how to do that? So I'm going to take one example for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a weather widget, a real-time weather widget which gives an update about a weather, and that widget or a component, we have to put it directly inside the DOM instead of show varchar component that will be there. So let's move to the next part of the our particular session. So this is weather forecast widget. It looks like this. You can check it via having this access to this GitHub, and it gives a weather real-time updates. Okay, for 4 days, I believe. Yeah. So what I mean by that is, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something funky called as import plus cam way of doing it. So import is, maybe you have seen it before, which is, we were doing it before with a routing. We were saying import a module. But what is scam? So scam means single component Angular module. So this is a kind of new architectural technique where you can have a component per module. So each component will have a module. Okay, this is not new, I can say. Already these have been followed by so many libraries. Like, if you look at the code of Angular material, you will see that each component have its own module. The same way most of the people were following, but let's try to do this way. So what I did is, from this particular GitHub repository, I got this weather component code, and I put it inside my application. So if you look at this, I have a weather forecast folder, and that contains all the components related to this weather forecast widget. Okay. Now the thing is, I have to load this. So how can I do that? Okay. So let's try to load that. So what should I open? First thing is dashboard component.ts. Let me bump up the font. Okay. Now I am going to add one more button. Say that show weather component. Okay. And I will add one more button on the UI itself. Show weather component. Okay. And let's make it little bit stylish. Matte button. Let's see what we can see on the UI. Okay, there are errors. Show weather comp. Okay, the dashboard component.ts is not saved, so let's save it. Okay, everything is fine. Let me minimize this. So I will comment out this line, and can you guess what I have to do now? I have to load the weather component now. So ideally, how I would be doing that for bar chart component. The bar chart component looks like very simple like this. It is there inside the bar chart folder. I don't know, it has its own HTML and all those things. Now, similar to that, we have to load a weather component. How to do that? So if you look at the weather component import statement, it be looking like this, weather forecast, weather, all those things, and then weather dashboard component. And instead of bar chart, I will be just saying load the weather dashboard component itself, and I'm going to save this, and let's see what happens. I'm navigating back to the browser. I should see two buttons at the bottom. One is for bar chart. Just go ahead, and when I say show weather component, it loaded the weather component full widget. You can apply CSS and wherever you want to, and you can just change the structure whatever you want to do. But yeah, this is the real-time values. So see, the way we have dynamically loaded this widget is very simple. So until now we haven't went to the lazy loading yet, so let's do it lazily. Why I'm saying it's not lazily loaded? Let's check the network bar and network tab and see. So this particular component must have been loaded somewhere here. Okay, it should be inside main.js or main.js somewhere. Now it's a part of uh, particularly all the Angular code that have been loaded. Okay, now we want to make sure that like the weather component should be loaded when we want to add it, when we click on the button. So how to do that? So it's pretty simple. Now you were doing something on import route, right? The same thing you have to do it here. Let's do that. Now what I will do is and I will just say import what? Import from this file, and this will be a component, right? And I will say that import this file, and what will be the file? The file is the dashboard component, the original one from here. And from that, make sure that you only get. Hello, someone had unmuted. So yeah, so this way what we did is, I think there is some noise. Someone had unmuted or what? Okay, now it is fine. Yeah, so what I did over here is, let me minimize this. Initially I was directly using the reference of object, okay, not object, component. Right now I will be commenting this one and will be importing a file from a particular component from the path and getting the instance of it from its imported module. Okay, and later on I will be using it inside create component method. So when executing, what will happen is when the JavaScript creates a bundle, it will not load the weather forecast code inside Angular main bundle, and it will wait until this particular file is loaded. That's why we have await, and later on we load the component, right? So let's save this and let's see it in action. So see, until now we don't see a weather component widget. Let's try to debug a bit. Let's click on this. So until then, do you have anything in the, let me clear a console. Huh? Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next line. Okay, let's check the network. See what happened just now. So it loaded something in the browser, and which is very huge, 1.8 MB, and this could be inside your real compressed zip. It could be around 300 KB or something closer to it, 100 to 300 KB. So it loaded now, and when you say next, you will see that component got loaded. So this is very big, huge win. Like, you now controlling the small part of your module itself. The module was huge part, and now you are coming to the smaller granular level on the component. So this way I could say this is pretty close to React, what React does, component level splitting, and now Angular also can do that. So what is the scenario behind doing this? There could be a way where there could be a case like in here we are showing the weather widget on button click. So suppose a user is admin, then only he should be seeing the weather widget. In other cases he should not. In those cases, you can have a code like this, using import, and you will make sure that if suppose user get to see that button and clicks on it, on then and only then the code will be loaded, otherwise it won't. So that's the thing. Now let's come to the other part, which is scam. I did not went on the scam part yet. So this is pretty interesting. I said that single component Angular module. What I mean by that, a component will have a module. So right now for that, if you check the code of this particular component, I had to place a component and Angular module together. Did I import it? Generally how Angular works is you have to import a module first and then only you can use it. In this case, you won't see I have imported a weather forecast module anywhere. So let me show you. So did I imported a weather forecast module anywhere? No, it's not imported anywhere. So where is it? So it is inside a weather dashboard component. Okay. A weather dashboard component. Underneath that, I just make sure that the ng module is present. And that way I made sure that this module is also getting imported when we ask for, it is registered when we ask for the component directly. And this way you got the scam pattern. Okay, this way I got the scam pattern. The Angular module and the component is in the single file. Yeah, you can segregate this. Obviously you can have it in a separate file, but yeah, there are ways to do that. So that's what the import plus scam is. So this way you can save a lot of information. One more small part that I want to show you is, it's not just about loading the component. Component can have input and output props, right? So you can also pass on that while loading it lazily. So how to do that? So I can get the instance of a component here and a reference of the component, and from the reference I can point to the instance and I can wait a minute. Let me check what are the inputs it is accepting. So we are using this component. Okay. So we can pass on this heading start thing. Okay. For now it is showing as, when I click on this, it is showing weather forecast, right? Let's do something and try to change it while loading it. What was it? It was heading start. Okay. Heading start. And let's see now again whether it is working or not. See, it got reflected, and this way you can also pass output props as well, output properties as well. So that was it about import plus scam. So Ashan, how much time I have? I think I'm over time, right?
It's quite 4 minutes, but how much time you can?
I think I may need 5 to 8 minutes maybe.
Okay, I am going to
Is there
inform them.
any next?
I'm gonna talk with the next speaker.
Okay, no
For
worries. Okay. So until now we looked at import plus scam. Okay, so we already did this part as a code in code, and now let's come to the end part, which is standalone components. So what is standalone components? So this is the RFC, which is which has recently been completed. So what is mean by RFC is like they Angular team generally do proof of concept of what they are going to do, and after that they create they do some initial digging, and they create a design doc later on that, what use cases it will be covering, and they add something called as GitHub issue as a discussion, and you can anyone can go there and then they can add in whatever they want to, like this scenario may not be covered, how can we handle this scenario. So this is a design doc, I could say, that was for standalone component, and that is completed, but still it's not there inside current Angular version, which is 14, the upcoming Angular version. So I'm hoping this will be soon be there, but not completely sure when. Maybe it could be 15 or 16 version, not sure. So what will happen with this standalone component? So what I mean by standalone? So standalone meaning, when I said import plus scam module, so that time you had seen that. Let me open the weather dashboard component which was using scam. So if you look at this, it has a component which is the main component, and it also has a module. So a current Angular way of doing things is, if you have a single component also that has to be shared, it requires a module. Okay, but when this standalone component thing will come into the picture, you don't have to write a ng module. You will get rid of it. You will be getting rid of it. And now the same file, how it will look like is afterward is, you know something like this, pretty simple. Now the ng module code will went away, and all the imports and the declaration part that was there, that will come inside imports. you know like it is using material imports, then it is also using some other standalone components, which could be weather dashboard filter, and all those things. And this way what will happen is, maybe like some this is very big refactoring, but in case this scenario could fit in very best in case of you are you are developing a reusable component, and that can act as a Angular elements, as well as you want to develop a small component which is very which is generic and it serves very little purpose, and that kind of thing can easily go into the standalone component. And the path towards the uh, you know lazy loading the chunks or the small parts of the application will be better in future. So yeah, so that was it. And thank you for listening to me, and yeah, sorry about the initial technical trouble as well. So yeah, thanks Ashan. I think I'm done.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank for your time and effort.
Yeah,
And I think it will be very much beneficial for the audience.
yeah,
And we are from different countries, uh, together making a community activity. It's a great,
yeah,
and by that we can make a broader network as well.
yeah, yeah. So just one thing, like, I will be sharing this on Twitter as well, this slides and the GitHub repository.
Right.
And maybe if someone wants to get it, they can follow me on Twitter by handle Pankaj Parkar if they want to. And yeah, I will also share the slides and GitHub repository to you as well over the LinkedIn.
Uh,
Okay.
it will be better. I am going to send you, and you can send your Twitter or email address that you want to share. If you
Sure.
share with a messenger, then I will share it to the community so that they
Nice.
can follow you. I think it will be nice.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks. It was nice
Thank
pleasure.
you very
Thanks for
much.
inviting me. Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Uh, Thank you very much for your patience on this event, and our next event session will be on Kubernetes, and our speaker is Mehdi Hassan. He is the head of development of Asha International. Mehdi Bhai is there. Hopefully, within soon, he will going to present the session. Mehdi Bhai, hopefully, are you there?
Yes, I am here. So, is it in Bangla or English? আমি বাংলা বলবো নাকি? আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে আমি শুরু
Sure,
করি, হ্যাঁ?
sure. You can start using Bangla. No problem. Today is the Independence Day.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. No problem. Okay, thank you. So, আসন ভাই আমি শুরু করি, আমি আমার স্ক্রিনটা একটু শেয়ার করি। Thank you.
Thank you very much, bhai.
Thank you very much. থ্যাংক ইউ ভেরি মাচ হাসান ভাই। আজকে আমি আসলে যে বিষয়টা নিয়ে কথা বলবো, বেসিক্যালি আসলে কথা না, আমি আসলে একটু ডেমো সেশন দিব। আমার কথা শোনা যাচ্ছে হাসান ভাই? হ্যালো।